Welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us tonight for Ask the Expert. I'm Catherine, and I'm the Virtual Program Coordinator for the National Aphasia Association. The National Aphasia Association is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to promote public awareness and understanding of aphasia, to promote research that aims to improve the lives of people with aphasia, and to provide support to all persons with aphasia and their care partners. In just a moment, I'll be introducing tonight's experts who will be talking about aphasia and the arts and are going to be getting us excited for the upcoming Night of Aphasia Arts. But first, this is Ask the Expert, so please write your questions for our experts about tonight's topic in the Q&A section of the Zoom toolbar. And feel free to say hello or add a comment in the chat. We will answer as many of your questions about tonight's topic as we can. If we don't get to your question, or if you have another question about aphasia, email the NAA at answers@aphasia.org. Or you can also join us next Wednesday for After the Expert. So After the Expert is one of our new conversation groups this year, and it's an opportunity for us to come together and talk about each month's Ask the Expert topic. Mara Silverman and I advised this group together, and so far both January and February's groups were fantastic. This month's meeting will be next Wednesday, March 19th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. We hope to see many of you there, so bring your questions and comments. Then coming up the following week is our annual Night of Aphasia Arts. This live virtual event is 2 weeks from tonight, Thursday, March 27th, from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The Night of Aphasia Arts is an online gala that features recorded performances, visual art, photography, poetry, and more. All art submissions are created by persons with aphasia. Two of tonight's experts not only have their art featured in the Night of Aphasia Arts, but they have also donated art to our live auction. So we hope you will watch the event live with us on March 27th, check out the auction, and even consider getting together for a watch party with family and friends. And if you can't make it, the event will be recorded, so you'll be able to watch and rewatch later. And one final quick reminder is that we are now offering one professional development hour toward ASHA certification maintenance for speech language pathologists who attend the entire Ask the Expert webinar live. A certificate will be shared in the chat at the end of the webinar. And now it's my pleasure to introduce tonight's experts and artists. Jerry Kaplan has been a practicing SLP for over 50 years. He created the Aphasia Community Group in 1990, one of the oldest support groups of its kind. He also co-created the Aphasia Resource Center at Boston University. An advocate for the arts, Jerry has produced projects to raise aphasia awareness and understanding, including public art, theatrical and musical presentations, and video documentaries. Keri Andrews makes puppets as a hobby after having a stroke, which led to aphasia. She had to relearn how to speak, read, and write, but her mind and creativity are still strong. The amputation that resulted from her stroke led to her interest in bionic prosthetics. Her workshops teach adults and children to build puppets. She also shares insights explaining how her bionic arm works. Keri published a book on aphasia, Pointing Pictures, to help people, including herself, struggling to read. Before this, she was CEO of You Kick Ass, customizing superhero figurines. She and her co-founder went on Shark Tank and got funding from Mark Cuban. They designed figurines with 3D printed heads to resemble real people. Following the end of her business, she experienced her stroke. Paul LoBrutto, the Goose, and his wife Carly, the Swan, created their home pottery studio, Goose and Swan Pottery, in January 2024. In December 2020, Paul survived a very serious stroke, which left him with significant expressive aphasia. After about 8 months of speech therapy and many naps, he felt comfortable enough to drive and communicate with people outside of his immediate friends and family. He enrolled in a beginner pottery wheel throwing class so that he could exercise his mind while keeping his body busy while out of work. In October 2023, Paul had a significant seizure. Because he wasn't allowed to drive while on new anti-seizure meds, his wife decided to bring the pottery studio into their home, buying 2 throwing wheels and a small ceramic kiln. They have been operational for almost a year now, participating as vendors in local markets and craft fairs, hosting pottery workshops, and selling custom mugs online. They donate 10% of sales to the National Aphasia Association. This past year, they were able to donate a total of $313. Paul has been featured as an artist in the NAA's Night of Aphasia Arts and will be participating again this year. He has also submitted a piece of his pottery capturing a stroke survivor's resilience for the art auction. So we're so happy to have this panel of experts tonight, and Jerry will be kicking us off.
Well, thank you so much, Catherine and Maura and the NAA for inviting us, for inviting me. I looked at that old picture of myself and I thought, who is that young guy? Because that's quite a few years ago, but I nevertheless wanted to share my passion for the arts. You know, maybe it's because I was thought I was going to go into theater, and I did some stand-up comedy and grew up with some of my comedy heroes, probably names you don't really recall because you're also young, people like Jack Benny and Milton Berle and Bob Newhart and Shelley Berman and Carol Burnett and on and on and on. And I thought, I want to do that. I want to connect people through laughter. And so I did some stand-up for a while, and I did some theater in and around Boston, and I was okay, but I wasn't great. And I thought, why don't I do stand-up as a speech therapist by sitting down and talking to people one person at a time? I mean, they're a captive audience, right? So I decided to use the arts and comedy to serve as sort of a bridge to raising aphasia awareness, and especially the arts, the performing arts, theater, film, poetry, music, etc. So I want to just tell you a little bit about how our video project, Living with Aphasia, came to be, and then we're going to show you one of the chapters, and I want you to know that the entire series, which is so far 5 chapters, they're going to be 6, and later on, with funding, we're going to do a freestanding documentary on its own. But I want you to take a look at the first chapter, and all of these are available to you free from the Boston University Aphasia Resource Center website. This project came about after we did a short 5-minute segment. We were invited to do a short 5-minute segment for the PBS NewsHour called Brief But Spectacular. And a production company from the local area came and filmed 2 folks. It was hard to narrow it down to 2 folks because aphasia is so diverse and so varied and caused by so many different types of events in the brain. It's really hard to capture 1 or 2 people to represent the whole community, as you all well know. But from that piece, we decided we really wanted to work with a professional production company to illuminate the world of aphasia. It's very challenging for a videographer or a filmmaker to put a camera on a person with aphasia who cannot say that much. And so we had to really work to figure out a way to pull the audience in to both educate and entertain. And we also didn't want to, as weird as this may sound, misrepresent aphasia. I mean, we could have cherry picked and edited and make it sound like that they were saying fluent sentences. But we thought that wasn't really fair and showing the real struggle. So it's kind of an art, kind of a science to depict aphasia and represent it in a way that can be understanding and yet not completely overwhelming the audience. So we collaborated with this wonderful group called Midnight Brunch to make this video documentary. As I said, we had worked with them before and were really impressed with their work. What did we want this to be? We wanted it to be sort of a story arc. We know that everyone's story about the onset of aphasia is different, but we did sort of a needs survey. We spoke to many people in our aphasia center to ask them such questions as, were you given sufficient information at the time of the stroke? And I know I'm not discussing primary progressive aphasia, but that's a forthcoming chapter that's going to be coming out later because, as you know, PPA, primary progressive aphasia, has several variants and a completely different onset and trajectory. So for this project, we were dealing with stroke onset aphasia. So we asked people to tell us, did you get information? Were you ignored? Were the doctors, the nurses, the therapists only talking to the caregiver or the family and leaving the person with aphasia feel invisible and like they weren't even in the room? And there was, I can assure you, as many of you in the audience would attest, gave us an overwhelming yes. It was like I wasn't even there. And so that was one thing we found out. Were you told specific types of aphasia? Were you told about it's a disorder of language and not intellect? Did you feel you were given enough time, or were you hustled in and out of meetings or by doctors who say, well, you look like you're fine, your blood work is fine, we'll see you later? And all of the answers were what I think you might expect to have been. No, I didn't get much information. I thought I was the only one. I don't know anything about this word aphasia. What is it, a country in India? I don't know anything about this condition and I need information. And I'm also in total crisis. And my husband, my child, my wife, my grandparents' identity has been stolen from them. So we had our work cut out for us. We sort of thought this was going to be the answers we expected, but it was told to us quite clearly. Then we thought, okay, how are we going to fund this? We reached out to our own community. We reached out to some people who we knew had some deeper pockets. We reached out to our own university and Boston and Sargent College, and they came through, and some people helped us match with funding, and we were able to, on a shoestring kind of, able to produce this series. And I don't want people to think, well, you had this kind of money so you could make this. It doesn't have to have all the bells and whistles. I think video, and many of you are probably already using video and recording not only speech therapy sessions, but also maybe home and community activities. People want to be seen. People want to be recognized. I am still here. I am not defined by my aphasia. And so we were fortunate in getting a budget to cover our expenses. We went through the process of finding people for the project. We have a large base of people with aphasia, but very different types. And we wanted to get sort of a spectrum of representatives of people living with aphasia. And we wanted the videos to be kind of a mixture of people with aphasia, family members, and some experts, physicians, neurologists, OT, PT, psych support, as well as family members who, to me, are often the number one expert in personalizing the journey and taking the journey with the person with aphasia. And then the post-production process of editing and putting music and titles on the video was a labor of love. I spent hours and hours in the editing room with the editors and they're magicians, to bring it down to manageable time levels and also let the aphasia, pardon the pun, if you will, speak for itself and not, as I said earlier, string words together because it made for a complete sentence, and it didn't really represent what the person was saying. So We decided to go with the chapter format. Each chapter is about from 5 to 8 minutes. And even though we know that everyone's journey is different, we felt that there was sort of an arc from the acute phase, the onset of the stroke and the aphasia, inpatient hospitalization, perhaps inpatient rehab, then home care, then outpatient, and then hopefully some community activity, going to outpatient groups, maybe returning to some form of work, if not their full position, maybe some kind of volunteer work, but some sort of return to their vocation or developing new vocations or avocations or capitalizing on their passions and skills such as pottery and puppetry and filmmaking and music and everything under the sun. So I don't want to overload you with a talking head of information, but I wanted to give you a sense of how this project came to be. And I think what we can do now is take a look at chapter 1. And it runs about 8 minutes. And then if there's any time left, either now or at the end, we can reflect on I'd love to know what your thoughts are and if you have any other questions or comments. So I think we can show
Perfect.
it.
Pull it up for us here.
Yeah. And as I said, it's all available on the website from BU. Enjoy.
I was under the covers, and for some reason I felt something, or somebody, it felt like, and then all of a sudden I found the light. The light went on, and there was nobody there. And I was like, and then all of a sudden I looked at my hand, and I said, like, that's not my hand. The silence. There was no words to hear in my head. They weren't there.
Had you ever heard of this term, this word, aphasia?
No.
No.
Well, I don't think I ever heard about that either.
What does it mean?
Aphasia is a communication disorder, and that it means someone might have trouble getting the words out, sometimes trouble understanding the words.
In people who've had a stroke with aphasia, that area of the brain that controls language is also next to the areas that control movement. That's why we often see people with aphasia have difficulty communicating, but also the weakness or the sensory impairments that go along with that.
There are certain areas of the brain that in general correlate the type of aphasia that we're going to see. The most classic are left frontal versus left temporal.
I was in London. I was for 4 nights. I was supposed to be there for my birthday and had a blood clot. I have a small memory of that moment, sort of waking up, and my partner, I remember I woke up and I think I said I was going to the bathroom, but instead I'm pretty sure my words were something like flies or trees that eat something. I don't know, whatever the word I would use. Brought me to a hospital. That point, I don't have any memory for probably another 10 days.
It was like if I looked and saw a bird, I wasn't sure what a bird was. I mean, it was beautiful to see a bird, you know what I mean? But I didn't know what a bird meant, in a sense.
Some strokes come on, boom. Hers came on slowly. Your leg had started to feel weird. It wasn't like painful, it was still working, but it would sort of buckle at times. She had headaches for about 5 months, and during that period, she had these 2 vertigo experiences.
When you had the stroke, how did it feel?
Well, a headache. Yeah, headache.
A bad headache?
Yes. You're a hospital.
I assume they admitted you.
No.
I'm wrong. They sent you home?
Yes.
But they say it's just a headache?
Yes.
I had a rash,
On your legs?
yeah,
On your thigh? And you went to the doctor.
3 times, and then nothing, and then 4 or 5 days later, I had a stroke in my house.
How old were you?
23. Yeah.
How old were you?
20.
29?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. With basketball.
You were playing basketball
Right.
at the time?
Right.
And what happened?
Bully the hoops.
Yeah. And down you went.
Right.
There are different types of aphasia that occur, and depending on where the stroke occurs in the brain, it can affect a person's ability to speak or express themselves more clearly or understand what's being told to them.
So I came out and made dinner, and I called him to come to dinner, and he said, "Do you want?" And nothing, nothing.
I knew that something significant had happened, but that's about all. A daughter. Tall. I don't know. Yes. And what is it?
Your daughter called and you weren't speaking clearly.
Yes.
And she was like, Mom,
Yes.
what's going on?
Yeah.
Hospital.
So you went back?
Yes.
Did they admit you this time?
Oh, yes.
In general, a more anterior front of the brain loss of blood is going to result in a non-fluent, expressive type of aphasia. Often the little words, the, and, to, because, will be lost, and they'll just sound more like an old-fashioned telegram. Can't talk, get help. Do you remember when it happened?
He couldn't do it.
Or didn't do any?
Yeah.
And you're pointing to your arm. Was it weak?
I can't did this.
You couldn't lift
Yeah,
it?
can't.
A left frontal stroke is more likely to produce paralysis of the right side of the body because the pathways cross, and we'll see right upper extremity and or lower extremity paralysis. You often may see people on the street walking and just sort of dragging their right foot along, or their hand is in a contracted position. Do you remember when you were in the hospital? Could you talk?
No, nothing. Speak, no speak.
Other types of stroke can be more posterior in the left side of the brain, which usually spares the physical loss. The information units of his speech was probably like circling the airport but not coming in for a landing. So it's very important to find the location and the extent of the stroke to help better understand the substrates of language.
I'm not sure. I mean, it was not so much a speech issue as just no comprehension.
Okay.
I could not want to read the newsletter. I couldn't read any of it. And headache, gone.
The headache was gone.
No.
What was gone? Your speech?
Everything. Yeah.
You just were sort of unconscious?
Yes. Yeah.
There are conservatively, 2.5 million people living in the United States with aphasia. I've heard you say many times it's the most common condition nobody's ever heard of, right?
We were told it was very, very bad, and they said this will be, if he survives, this will be a marathon and not a sprint.
So that's chapter 1. I hope you enjoyed it. I think that it focused on the first stages of a variety of people, the initial onset, and I think I'm proud of it, and I hope that you find it something that you might want to share with family and friends and colleagues. So I know I've overstayed my time, so I'll stop there. But if you have any questions either now or later, Catherine, we can do that whenever you feel.
Thank you, Jerry, for sharing that first chapter with us. I'm sure we'll have some questions, but I'd love to hear from our next expert and artist, Keri.
Hello. Actually, can you see me? Okay.
I can see you, and I'm about to pull up your.
Okay. And wow, that's really awesome. What just did the have this video. Thank you. So I want to show what happened to me and how you can kind of improve for creativity. Next. So I felt like my childhood dream was preparatory. And I also, of course, as a kid, I felt that I have other passions as well, and so I didn't pursue it for that puppetry. But my boyfriend and I he bought me a present for a puppet, and I thought that was so fascinating. And I called my puppet Keri Oki. And my boyfriend and I, we got married, and the wedding song was Rainbow Connection by Kermit the Frog. Next. And so what happened was that the wedding, after the wedding, I had a big stroke, and I was not able to communicate at all. And I felt like, since I wasn't able to read, write, or speak, I was very bored. And my husband found a video on YouTube with Adam Savage to make a puppet. And I thought, wow, that's so interesting. Since I wasn't able to speak at all, I thought that was something interesting to learn. And actually, Adam Savage, I just saw him a week ago, and I had a letter to him what happened, and he thought it was just wonderful, and he knows about aphasia. Anyway, so I started making a puppet, and so next. So this is my first puppet that I made, and I wasn't able to speak, and I think that at that time I was only able to have about 20 words total, but I thought that it was interesting, and I want to have my own expression. So next. So if you know about Beaker on Muppet Show, they're not able to speak at all, and so I felt connected with him, and so I made a Beaker, and I also made Kermit the Frog too. Next. Okay. So I started making more puppets, and now I'm able to teach classes and adults and kids, and so I think it's so it's interesting because like I wasn't able to speak at all for a while, and I'm still learning, but I feel it's just it's kind of interesting because like kids they don't actually care. So that's really great because the adults they're a bit concerned what happened, so they're not sure how they can if since the adults, they don't know what aphasia is, and so it's a bit difficult. But the kids, they didn't have an issue. And plus, when I had my my bionic arm, the kids thought it was so cool. So next. So I basically I just believe that puppets are imperfect like people, because they have their own unique ways. And so I guess this is done.
Great. Did you want to show us any of the puppets?
Sure.
that
Yeah,
you-
if you can. Okay, so the puppets, I have this one, obviously. I have Kermit the Frog. Hello. I have Beaker, or sorry, Beaker right here. Yeah, just this is kind of my community with my puppets.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing your story and this new art that you had found. You're so talented. All of our experts tonight are so talented. And so that brings us to our third artist, our third expert tonight, Paul. We'd love to hear from you about your journey.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name's Paul LoBrutto. I also had expressive aphasia about 4 years ago. I'm a physician assistant. I live in the Philly area, Philadelphia area. And yeah, so I had an aphasia about 4 years ago. They still don't really know a reason why that happened. I know it was excuse me. It was a hemorrhagic aphasia, and again, it was. I'd love to say that it was a really scary moment because I quite honestly don't remember a whole lot. If there's some people there right now, I'm probably sure they have a similar scenario as well. I don't really remember a lot that happened. Basically went to go to work, and kind of blacks here and there. I did know that I had I got to go in a helicopter. That was probably the most interesting thing that happened to that. Everything else was terrible. But other than that, yeah, again, 4 years ago, if you remember, that's about super COVID time. So I truly could not talk to my wife. I couldn't talk to my kids. My son was about 2 months, maybe even a little younger than that. So barely even got to say hi to him ever. Don't really remember a lot as well. So I kind of had to re-speak to all of my family. Again, it sounds very similar to, like I said, the video from Jerry, as well as what, Keri was saying, is that like I really couldn't really talk to anyone. I kind of knew who they were. I knew they were a person, and I knew them, but I didn't know sort of their name, and that kind of thing. It was very odd, obviously. And sort of, the big thing I wanted to sort of make sure to talk about, the two big things is, the recovery service. I after I, went home, which was about 6 days, maybe 7. Truly, I don't know. My wife might say 10. I don't even know if this is a stroke thing or just me being a man, and I just don't remember. But yeah, so came back home. My wife said, I need him home now. They wanted me to go to like a like a outpatient kind of thing. And then she said, no, you're coming home. I need you home. And so here I go. Again, she said it in my little type thing here. This was a lot of sleeping. It was a lot of sleeping, and then I said the biggest thing was recovery. It's recovery, more recovery, and recovery again. It was hard. It's still hard every day. Some days good, some days bad, some days really bad, and some days great. I feel awesome, and then some days not so much. Still is that way. Sometimes better than the other. And obviously now I feel pretty good today. Take a good nap and you usually feel a lot better. But I had a little bit of a point where I just needed to do stuff. I needed to do more. Like I said, I'm a PA. I'm still not able to work just yet. Sort of speaking with patients is a difficult thing because it's a lot of odd words that you have to find that I have in my head, and I just can't grab them there. I can't get them in my head. So it's like, what I try to explain people is, it's like, if you're talking to somebody who's like, about a movie, everybody's seen movies, and you say, well, the guy in the movie with the thing and the stuff and it's like doing that when you're trying to talk to a friend, but then talk to, by the intillionth time in a day. It's very frustrating. And it was very frustrating at first. Maybe somebody has the same thing, but a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, a lot of hopelessness. It was really sad. But you got to really kind of stay on top and just know that you can get there and you can do it. Because it was very hard, and still is. But the point of everything I am sort of talking about is sort of what I did. And my wife and I, when we had just a date night, we went to, the kids actually could leave, which was barely ever. We couldn't really do that very much, but we went to a pottery night with me and my wife, and a potter there, and sort of went for the first time, and I sort of enjoyed it. She said that I kind of got it a little fast. Not really sure that I did. It's just like anything, you got to keep doing it, you keep working on it, you get better and better. And I think I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed to use myself into in your brain, trying to make the thing, move the thing, and make this beautiful piece. And sometimes it doesn't go the way you want, and I think I am the person that says this is bad and I'll smash it and then move on from it and go from there. But sometimes you see something that you think, even though it is imperfect, it's also kind of beautiful too. Some I think are useless, but sometimes they are not. They're actually pretty cool. So yeah, we kind of went from there. So I had I started to do a pottery studio away, it was about 30 minutes away or so, once I could drive, clearly. And so I did pottery from a studio, an actual teacher there. Her name was Emma, and she helped me a lot. She made me learn how to do it, how to do different things, how to make bigger things, more interesting things. And so got better and better and better, and really enjoyed it. I didn't really do anything more from that until I had my first seizure. So that was sort of my first big setback from going from my recovery. That one really stunk because I really thought I was getting better, truly thought I felt really good. Starting back at work, that's sort of fun stuff, because I really do miss my job and I missed being a PA. But so yeah, I had to sort of reset, circle around again, and kind of go back to what I was doing. And I think my wife kind of noticed that I was a little bit, maybe a little bit more depressed again, which sort of makes sense if you think about it. And we kind of went for it. We went all for it, and we kind of made our whole studio, which is actually where I am.
Oop, we lost Paul. I think he was about to show us his studio and we lost him. I'm sure he will be back. But we have some questions already that we could start for Keri and Jerry while we're waiting for him to come back. Does that sound good? Keri, Kitty asked in the chat, what do you make your... Oh, Paul is back. Paul, we're just gonna ask Keri one question since we lost you and then we'll jump back in. Keri,
Yeah,
what do you
sorry.
make your puppets out of?
Foam, patterns. There's a lot of different types that I try. Like I have like some kind of like a, it's hard to explain. I do something like this, so you can like the a safety the word safety. It's like to snap it on it, to snap it. Yeah, anyway, other different types that I have. If you're interested to learn more, I can talk to you soon.
And you have a list of materials on your website, don't you, Keri? So
Yeah,
we can share the link again to your website in the chat. And then Paul, you were just talking about how you have your studio now in your home, in the room where you are right now.
Yeah, actually, sorry about that. I don't know what that was. Yeah, so we actually started our studio now, and we have our what is it, Goose and Swan Pottery, which we have now, and we kind of just went for it. Like I said, it's been, she'll say it's a year. I think it's actually a little less, actually, the whole name and all the everything. But I mean, I might as well just kind of show everybody if they wanted to. It's kind of small, but it is what we have right now. So as of right now, this is our actual studio that we work here. That's our small kiln, and it's a real mess, which is actually kind of normal for pottery. So that's our two wheels. We have our water in there, and that's all of our stuff that we have still sitting ready to go for the kiln soon. It is very large, bunch of stuff that we're still making because we have a whole bunch of things we're trying to make, and that's sort of our other stuff that we have just sort of sitting. If anybody thinks that's really cool, let us know. You can buy that. Yeah, so we have a whole bunch of stuff now, and we're kind of just, like I said, going for it, see what we enjoy to make, seeing what people might like, and kind of go from there. We have a big area for a spring for a whole different, like, pottery, and as well as arts and things of that, for like people buying it. I can't remember the name of it, but we'll kind of go, we have a whole bunch of stuff we have to make ready for that. So we're kind of, that's why we have so much stuff sitting there. It's a very slow kiln. So we kind of have to have everything ready, but I think I kind of just went on a bit of a tangent, but in any case, like I said, we kind of went from here. It started out with me, really just me. And then, like I said, I think my wife is she's very artistic. She always has been her whole life. And I actually was not at all. I don't know if it was because I really had to have a space to, feel, make my brain move and that kind of stuff. I think it probably was. But she really needed an itch with something like that too. And so we kind of went for it together, and it's something that we really enjoy. We really, it's kind of a little bit about us as well, because like I said, we have a really, obviously we want our family to be happy and really enjoy what we do. So yeah, I think that that's most of it. I mean, like I said, moving on from, what we did, my piece that I made, which maybe some of you will see, or can see, in the 27th, I think it is, if I remember correctly. But it is, essentially on what, it's a pretty, I don't know if it's enormous, but it's probably the bigger thing that I've made, with a bowl. And it sort of makes me feel about, when I was, sick or, unwell, whatever word you want to use, and how it made me sort of feel as, your brain and how your head just doesn't feel right, and it just scrambled, whatever word you want to use. So that's sort of where I went from here. And I don't know if I have anything else, but I hope that anyone can hear me and listen to what I said, and hopefully I made sense. But I guess, yeah, if you have any questions, you can always ask me. If you wanted to chat, get an email or whatever, I can always talk, and I'm happy to speak for anybody that has a question about anything.
Thank you, Paul. And we'll be sharing Paul and Keri and Jerry's websites in the chat. And everyone can find your emails there. We'll also, when we have the recording up on YouTube, it'll have the information there as well. So thank you all again for sharing your stories. And we do have some questions about your art experience. James wrote a question, just curious what other hobbies and interests that you have, whether they've changed since your stroke, or what other things do you enjoy to do besides making movies, puppets, and pottery?
Well, I love the theater. I love restaurants and concerts, stuff like that. I guess I'm a theater guy trapped in a speech pathologist's body, so I've tried to make the two of them merge, and I think it's been pretty successful. It opens up a whole new world, especially for people who are so struggling with the loss of identity imposed by a language impairment. I think it's a bridge to, I mean, these two folks, Keri and Paul, are examples of, the old lemons make lemonade. What you do are it's right hemisphere, it's art, it's joy.
Yeah. I guess I'll go. I mean, for me, I really enjoy snowboarding. I tried to do it once or twice since my stroke. Did it. It was a little scary. I can speak and walk pretty easily without an issue. I don't know if it's more of like a scare kind of thing. But no, I like to, honestly, like, basically for me, it's, I'm dad right now. I really want to go back to being PA stuff. I don't want to say that like my job is my life, but I really enjoy being a PA, and I really do like doing my orthopedic job. So I'd love to go back to that. But my daughter is really, really good at volleyball. So I've been doing that a lot with her. And I've never played volleyball. I've learned it. I'm terrible at it, and she's so much better than me, but I've been doing that a lot. And my son's 4, and he just wants to run like an animal. So that's a little bit of a whole other thing.
Is that me now? Okay. I don't know. I have some hobbies, a lot of different hobbies. I have different projects. It's hard to explain. I have I'm starting to tinker on robots. That's kind of cool. But yeah, I am not able to to have a job. It doesn't really work like that now. So that's why. But I'm my husband's there, still there. We're supporting with each other, and that's what we want.
Keri, we had a question about for folks who are having trouble using their arm, their stroke. So I don't know if you could speak to any adaptive things that you've used to help with art. And then Jerry, you've met lots and lots of people with aphasia through your work. And if you found some interesting adaptive ways for folks to be able to participate in art.
Yeah, I'm not able to have like a puppeteer, because I can't perform. I can't speak very well, and also my arm is gone. So that is a challenge. But I'm able to adapt for the open the can. You can. I'm now able to drive. It's just, I don't know. It's I don't know. It's hard to say. The big thing is physical therapists all the time have to have my exercise. My shoulder is a big one, because if you don't use it, then you can start having atrophy. So you don't want to do that. But I do. I have my exercise every single day, and so yeah, I guess. Anybody else?
And a hush falls over the crowd. Where are we? What's happening now?
Jerry, have anyone that you've worked with in your years of being part of the Aphasia Center at BU? Have there been any unique adaptive ways that people have been able to participate in art?
Well, if I may, I'm not going to show that. If I can show you one slide, if I can share my screen, I don't know if this will work. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the first things I did many years back, you can see 1998, I was fortunate enough to meet an amazing artist, a multimedia artist named Ellen Driscoll, who was based in Brooklyn, but she was in the Boston area back then. And her father had had a stroke and had had aphasia. Long story short, she had this idea to do a collaborative art project with 12 people from our aphasia group at the time. And she spent hours and hours with each individual. And she, those kitchen magnets that have words on them, a lot of people have on their kitchen, and you can make. So she brought a bunch of those things, and she also brought sketch pads. And we also talked a lot about what people's pre-stroke lives, pre-aphasia lives were like. And we suggested sort of a ramp starter phrase like my mind. And these people came up in these collaborative sessions with these startling images and text, which Ellen helped them create these images, and they were mounted onto large sailcloth banners, and they were suspended over various bridges and locations in Boston, and toured many various aphasia conferences. This was a temporary art project. And so using those words and a sketch pad to combine language and imagery was very innovative at the time. And here are some of the banners that were displayed along the BU Bridge, just showing you they're double-sided. So this woman, Pat, was a button collector. And so her phrase was, my mind is coptering like a mosquito. So I thought this was a very early and creative example of using My cobalt mind stalks clues. So I just wanted to show you that. My mind is an umber trompe l'oeil. My mind plays pianoforte, and then my mind plays pianissimo. And these people did a lot of this artwork themselves. This was done by a former mezzo-soprano opera singer, Jan Curtis, who played the witch in Hansel and Gretel. That was one of her signature players. So there she is with a megaphone and dressed as the witch. And then on the other side, the body is split, which is how she felt, how a lot of people feel after hemiplegia and stroke. So I thought this was a rather creative use of, but collaborative, an artist, a poet, and the person living with aphasia. Musicians, a lot of musicians, singers, all sorts of, we did Night Sky, which was a play about aphasia, performed by people with aphasia. So I could go on, and I will stop.
No, that's great. And it's a good point about collaborating with other people too.
Yeah.
And both Keri and Paul have both spoken to the importance of the support network around them too. I'm looking at the time and I think we have time for one more question. So if someone is interested in getting started in art and maybe they are really inspired by you all, they don't really know where to start, they weren't really an artist before, what advice would you give the people watching tonight's webinar to get involved in art?
I mean, the first thing what I would say is, because I don't think I did it I took quite a while. I think I mulled on far too much time to do it, is obviously when you're ready, try to do something. I did not. I think I was pretty dark for a while. And like maybe a little bit of woe is me kind of stuff. But at once you realize that there is light behind a tunnel, if you will, to your new normal, I guess. There is things to do. There's something to enjoy about life and doing things, and finding something that you either don't know if you enjoy it yet, but there's got to be something there, right? Because I found it, and it helped me a lot, and I think that Keri said it too, and so did Jerry. I mean, it's your family and your friends, loved ones, whoever, to always speak to you, love you as well, and just talk to them as well, even if it's just talking to them. I think that helped me a lot too, before I was actually getting to my pottery studio or whatever. But I think maybe that's maybe baby steps helped too. Yeah.
Aphasia invisibilizes. Is that a made-up word? But
if it's not, then I'll say I did.
And you have to fight it.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah. And quite honestly, like, maybe not everybody can do this, but sometimes, like you were talking about it, like sometimes you just need to laugh a little bit. Sometimes it's impossible to, but even if it's just small little bits of hope, sometimes that's all that you need. It's hard sometimes, but
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well put, Paul. Thank you.
Yeah.
Keri, did you have anything to add about that?
Well, I mean, I used to draw. It's a bit difficult because I don't have, one arm, left arm. So that was a bit difficult, but, that's why I had to adapt and have a totally different output. So that's why I started to make puppets. I also started to having some. I started making jewelry. It's hard to explain my words. Jewelry. So I do that sometimes. And yeah, just like to think positive, and I want to learn more. Yeah.
Great. And Jerry, any final words on that? Any words of inspiration for folks who want to get started in art?
It's so easy to take pictures now, or even videos. Just start letting, if your speech is very limited, let your camera be your voice, if you will, if that doesn't sound too trite. Just go out in the community, take pictures. We're on to spring now, of blossoming flowers, of beautiful dogs. Most people love to have their dogs taken. Start with the story, visual stories. And there are videographers around who would love, you might even go to a school of visual arts, and students may want to participate in working with you as their senior project for no or low cost. So there are ways to access the visual arts on a very low or no cost level, but start by just walking in the park and being out in nature and photograph a squirrel or a tree or the sunlight dappling through this. It will just release some oxytocin in you, which is kind of the love drug, I think, the love hormone. I know that sounds
Yeah. No, that's a
simple.
great, simple tip, and everyone has a phone these days. So I love that idea. Well, it is just past 8 o'clock. So thank you so much to this panel of artists and experts for answering our questions, for sharing your stories. Clearly there's both the good and the bad, and it sounds like your art is one of those ways that you are showing your resilience, and sharing your art with all of us is really a gift. So thank you. For more info about the National Aphasia Association, you can find educational materials, resources, providers, supports in your area. Visit us at aphasia.org. Our virtual programs are scheduled throughout the month and are open to people with aphasia, their care partners, and clinicians. You can find more info about our programs and the Zoom links to participate at aphasia.org/events. And again, we're so excited for the Night of Aphasia Arts in 2 weeks. So we hope you'll join us Thursday, March 27th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Next month, our Ask the Expert webinar will be Thursday, April 10th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Our expert, Kelly Corbett of Carolina Family Estate Planning, will share info about estate and long-term planning for people with aphasia. Please email any questions that you have to the NAA at answers@aphasia.org. And finally, we're going to share a survey when the webinar ends, and we hope you'll just take a moment to complete the survey for us. So thank you all again for joining us for tonight's webinar. Thank you so much, Paul, Keri, and Jerry, for being with us tonight. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next month. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.